Alrighty, here we go. This is KMKanDrum, and this is Q&A with KMKanDrum, and I am here with Rich Raw Dog West drum covers. Rich, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up? Hello from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, you're up in Seattle area, right?
Yes, yep. Tacoma, actually. It's about 45 minutes drive south of Seattle, but yeah, same kind of area.
Cool,
Yep.
man. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, and I don't know how you can't know because Rich is everywhere, all over the place in this community, but he's got an amazing channel. He's got some really cool stuff that he does. Him and I both have the main thing we have in common is our punk background. So
Yeah.
both of us we have a large background, but we really like the punk genre. And out of all of the people in the drum community, I would venture to say that Rich is probably the guy that's just he's just so positive, and he's always trying to bring the community together, and he's just such a wonderful voice to have in the drumming community on YouTube and all over the place on social media and whatnot. So I appreciate you so much, Rich, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this interview because I want to not only get to know you better on the drum side, but actually, behind the scenes, who's the man behind the drum set. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
thank you
man,
for saying all that. That's awesome of you, Kelly. I think we've been following each other's channels for probably 4 years plus, right?
something like
And
that.
that you and I have both seen so many channels come and go because, like, if you think back to all those, the guys that we looked up to when we were starting our channels, is like they've kind of died on the vine, but here we are. We keep
Yeah,
going, right?
yeah,
We're still
exactly.
doing our thing, and yeah, and then much respect for you and everything you do. Just your the sound quality of your videos and all the equipment that you got there behind you. I know you spent, probably had to take out a second mortgage on your house to get all that equipment, but no, I just your channel is phenomenal too, and you do a lot of great interviews and a lot of great things, product reviews. I like when you go to the NAM shows and do videos from there and stuff. So yeah, props to you too, sir.
Yeah, man. Well, I got some questions for you. You ready?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Well, obviously the first one would be why do you play drums? When did you start? And yeah, I guess we'll go with just those two. Why and when.
Okay. So uh, back in the mid '70s, when a little kid, Kiss is out, right? Kiss was huge back then. So Peter, Chris, and we'd go over to people's houses, little, our neighbors or me and my brother, and say, "I want to be Peter. I want to be Gene. I want to be, I want to be Ace." So I was all over the map. I really didn't know that I wanted to play drums back then. But I played sports up until my sophomore year in high school, and then probably midway through my sophomore and junior year, I kind of wanted to quit all sports, which really disappointed my dad because he was a baseball coach. But anyway, so I was like, I want to just jam in a band and play guitar. So I started taking guitar lessons. Um, got some friends that I used to skateboard with together, and we would just jam in my parents' basement. And then you go home after school, and my drummer would just leave his drum set up there, and I would just want to tinker around with them, And I told my mom, which really upset her. She's like, all these guitar lessons, and now you want to switch to the drums, So I actually bought that drum set off of my friend who was a drummer because he just wanted to give up on music altogether, and so that's how I got started on drums, probably around the age 17.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that story sounds very similar to I know you know the band Thrice. Um
Yes, of
they
course.
were a bunch of skaters that just wanted to start playing too, and look at them. They're an amazing band. I
Oh yeah.
have you covered them at
And
all?
I have covered two of their songs. I did a remake of one up at the Echo Lake Studio.
Oh,
All That's
cool.
Left, that song. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, so okay. Yeah, that was a long time ago. So you've been playing for
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, and I mean, if you add all the years up, I would, probably 40 plus years. Um, but I had a long break in between. We can get to that later if you want. But yeah, I had a period of 22 years where I did not pick up drumsticks or play the drums, and it wasn't until probably a year before I got out of the Air Force that I started playing again.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty common thing in the YouTube community where a lot of guys started and then took a long break and then, oh yeah, look at that mug.
Yes.
And then came back to it. So yeah, I don't think that's like it's not a rare thing. So, but I mean, look at you now. Your channel is, going good, and I love like all the stuff that you got in the background with the lighting and all that going
Oh
on.
yeah.
It makes it
Yeah,
look
this is my yeah,
it makes it look
my
so
teenager room.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, see, you're making up for lost time, I guess, right?
Yeah, yep, yep.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's see. Do you go with the wood or the nylon tips?
On the drumsticks, you mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have past 4 or 5 years I've used strictly Pro Mark 747's nylon tip.
Cool.
And I do like the nylon tip because I like the sound on the ride,
Yeah.
that you get, the little
Yeah.
ping sound.
I noticed that on your covers, your ride is really it's like really defined.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and honestly, the way I play on the hi hat, I'm hitting just below that nylon tip, so it really chews up that end. So it gets chiseled down to like a pencil thin. But I don't break many of those sticks,
Hmm.
so that's why I've stick with the Pro Marks, and I use the stick wrap. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's kind of like in baseball. I know you're a baseball fan. Using
Yeah.
the grip tape, the
Yeah.
grip tape on the bat or a batting. I know some people use gloves, but it's not so much for the calluses, but I think it really helps with your joints too. So you don't have because you're doing a constant impact, right? You're constantly impacting your joints when you're playing drums, and I think it really helps.
Yeah. So um you've been playing out, right, with a band?
Yeah,
So I'm sure it
yeah.
helps during your shows too, right?
Yeah, because here I was playing in, punk bands, 90s alternative bands up here in Seattle for a few years. And then this band I just got into last year, they, are playing mostly 70s classic rock, some 80s, but those previous bands, punk shows, you play 30 minutes and there's like
Yeah.
four bands on the bill, right? So you're playing 30 minutes, it takes you longer to, set up your drums and tear them down than it does your set. So I get together with this group, Full Vinyl Jacket, and they said, "By the way, we play 3 hours long," and I'm like, "Whoa!" So yeah, I was not used to that at all. So yeah, it definitely takes a toll on your body, trying to get used to that.
Yeah. Okay, so I know I haven't asked this question before because I don't know if there were many of the drummers that I've interviewed that actually play out. Like I haven't played out in a band in a long time. But I remember when I used to play, uh, for a long time when I was in my 20s and whatnot, I would never warm up. I would just go set up my set and I would go straight onto the stage and start playing. And then when I hit
Yeah,
my late 20s, it all started catching up with me and all the things that you're doing on stage, not just playing, but like the whole show takes a toll on your body. So I started to warm up and started doing warm up exercises. Is there anything that you do before the shows to warm up, or do you
yeah,
just go?
yeah. No, I definitely have to, stretch my limbs, stretch all four limbs, and and then do some back exercises and stuff before I sit down in a chair for 3 hours. So
Is it three
yeah,
hours straight, or do you do like
no,
one?
it's. I mean, we usually play, a 45-minute set, take a 15-minute break, and then press on from there. Usually,
Cool.
um, yeah. So what I like about this band is our singer Shannon. She's got us all these. Hold on a second. Sorry. Can you see me? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, our singer has got us we did all the dive bars. All of us have been in different bands, played all the dive bar stuff, kind of got tired of that. We're getting private parties with this band. We're getting wineries, so we're playing in some of these picturesque settings. Beautiful wineries. Lake Chelan is a big lake out here in Washington. We played out there, outdoors, you know, just all sorts of gigs. So yeah, um, it is a lot better, I think, when you go and you set up and you're going to be there for a while, rather than you got to load in, set up really quick, start playing your set, and then break it down right away. And honestly, I know you've played in bands before. I think that's actually the work part. All the logistics that goes into getting to that gig, is the work part, whether it be the driving and or the lugging your equipment and setting up. That's the hard part. Um, but when you're playing in front of a crowd, especially if they're getting into it, that is just pure fun. I don't have to get paid for that, but the loading and unloading, yeah, pay me for that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you totally. Yeah, you're just telling that story. I just had all these flashbacks of playing on the Hollywood Sunset Strip and whatnot, and trying to find parking, and it's just like definitely
Well,
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah,
get paid
exactly.
for
You
that.
got to put your yeah, some same way in Seattle too. You got there's it's crowded streets, and you got to turn your flashers on, and then you got to somebody got to watch your car because you got big city problems. Somebody's going to steal something if you don't watch your stuff. That sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool, man. I'm glad that you are playing out and doing the kind of the exclusive type of gigs where it's not so stressful and hectic and all of that. It sounds like a really good gig you got going on.
Yeah, I really lucked into this band, Kelly. I wasn't doing anything for a while, probably a few months, and then all of a sudden, we've known each other. I've known all these people for 6, 7 years, but yeah, hey, Rich, we need a drummer to fill in. Okay, about 6 weeks, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I think I can do that. I've seen you guys play. I kind of know your set list. And then they told me, by the way, it's 4 hours away from here,
Oh wow.
and we're playing a 3 hour set. And I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah. But we made a day out of it, and took the wife, took the dogs, and it was at a winery, so it was really cool.
Yeah,
And
that's
we've done
awesome.
that a few times since, and we have more set up this summer to go back out that Lake Chelan.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, you can plug them if you want. Is there a website we could check you guys out or a YouTube or anything?
Yeah, I mean, full vinyl jacket. We're on all the social media, Instagram and Facebook, and have a YouTube channel, which is a lot of the videos that I've uploaded this past year. They have some on there with their previous drummer from older shows, but yeah, on all the social media, full vinyl jacket.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. If you could only play one style of music, what would it be?
Man, that's hard, right? That's hard because I know that you're so broad between '80s music to disco to punk and hard rock, and I even saw your Tori Amos yesterday. So you're yeah. That's very hard to pinpoint. The covers I've realized over the years that I have the most fun and I enjoy playing the most are the punk and alternative songs. Those are the more of the style that I'd really have fun playing the covers of.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Any particular reason?
Uh, I don't. I guess I don't know, because it's a far. Well, I mean, it's like a 180, or it's really so far away from what I'm playing live that
Mhm.
I think it's good to because we're playing '70s and '80s. I go from playing Doobie Brothers on a weekend to come back during the week to practice. A Lagwagon cover. So I think that's cool for me because I just like to have that drastic difference of playing between what I do live and what I do on the covers.
Any particular punk or alternative band that you favor covering?
Oh, it's a tough one. Um, no, no, not really. I mean, I could go back through, my history of punk. I started out listening to bands like uh, Devo early on, they were punk. And then um, you know, Agent Orange, bands
Oh,
like that,
yeah.
and Minor Threat, and all the bands from the '80s, Misfits. So being a skateboarder in Midwestern, Ohio, much different than you're seeing in LA, when you grew up, because we would see all these magazines of people skating, and we're like, man, that is so awesome. I'm moving to California as soon as I'm 18. And then you hear about all these punk bands from these magazines, and you're like, I'm gonna go check it out. And you'd go to my local record store in Cincinnati, you're like, we don't have that. So yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it, is from skateboarding, is getting into punk rock. And Black Flag was another early influence back then. So I was, and a lot of my friends back then, I thought that was kind of weird, because they were still listening to, the Led Zeppelin and the Ted Nugent and Journey, and, bands like that from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, okay, so since you do both, I'd like to ask, do you prefer to be on stage or in the studio?
Yeah, by far on stage. Yeah. Playing live, there's nothing like it. It's so much better. I mean, it is nice sometimes to play in the studio and you just do your own thing. Um, but live is definitely better.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've ever had the chance to actually be in an original band, record, and then play those songs live. Um, but if you have you had that experience
I
before?
did, yeah. So yes, Grim Statistic, and the drum heads back there. So yeah, I was in that. Grim Statistic was a band. We started out playing covers of '90s and punk rock, and then we had about 6 originals, and we made an EP in the studio up in Seattle. Um, so yeah, and it was, and I don't even know the history, but it was Earache Studios, but it was where a lot of the famous grunge bands and back in the '90s and stuff also recorded. But that was a cool experience, being up there. I think we went up there, us three. We were a 3 piece. We were just very prepared, and so we it didn't take us that long to get our stuff down. What it took a lot longer to get the vocal tracks than it did for our music, because we had been playing those songs in clubs for a couple years. And so yeah, I think that just the live and getting that immediate feedback, though, right?
Yeah.
Is much more of a joy than, we do our covers, you put it out on YouTube, and then you sit there and wait and say, are people going to like this? Are people going to watch this? I don't know. And the same with putting out an EP or something on digital media, is like, okay, how many people have downloaded this? Or, you don't get that immediate response, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, there's nothing like being on stage, especially when there's a nice audience and they're all feeling it and interacting and whatnot. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's you don't get that kind of adrenaline rush in the studio.
right. That's yeah.
Cool. Okay. Last drum question. I've been asking this one because I've been liking the responses that I've been getting, but if you could be Dr. Frankenstein and take one of like your favorite drummer's hands, put them on another drummer's body, and combine all different body parts from different drummers, what Dr. Frankenstein crazy monster drummer would you create?
Neil Peart for everything. No, I'm just
Ah.
kidding. Uh, Nobody's told you that before, have they? But, yeah. So I mean, how about this hand? So I'll just tell you the drummers I like, and I don't know in what order, but if you think about double bass, feet, fast feet, Dave Lombardo, Slayer, man, or all those guys from the thrash era, like him, Charlie Benante. from Anthrax and all those guys. Hands. What about Terry Bozzio, man? Are you a fan of Terry Bozzio? Um,
Yeah.
from his missing, Frank Zappa, and then his missing pursing days, and now he just does a lot of drum clinics in Japan. I mean, he's been sponsored by Tama forever, but it's just amazing. And I know you've probably seen maybe videos of his kits and stuff. So I have been a big fan of Terry Bozzio for years. I can't forget to talk about Peter Criss and our friend Mike Conway. Remember he just made a cover yesterday, and it's really awesome. And I know he has mentioned on when he's been interviewed by you how big of a fan he is of Peter Criss. So I can't go without mentioning that name, as well as Jimmy Chamberlain from Smashing Pumpkins. I just love how he does everything. And then some of the punk rock drummers I like, and we both like, is Derek Ford from Lagwagon, Dave Ron, their newer drummer, awesome. I know you're not a Green Day fan, but I also like Trey Cool. I kind of emulate a lot of what he does when I used to play in live punk bands. So, yeah, I don't know if that captures all of them, but yeah. And then Neil Peart and Bill Ward from Black Sabbath, and of course John Bonham. Everybody mentions John Bonham.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah,
not in any particular order, but those are some of my favorites.
that's a good list. It's a very what do you call it? A very diverse list as far as different styles of drumming.
Yeah. Alan Myers from Devo. Come on. Alan Myers, rest in peace. He was back then in the 80s. Have you ever seen that video for Whip It? I mean, it's a ridiculous video, but who thought of doing that with the hi-hat and how fast he was doing that?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
for sure.
one of my favorites, Alan Myers.
Cool, man. All right. Well, yeah, that's a great intro into hopefully all you drummers out there got to know Rich a little bit more and his drumming style, but I want to get to know Rich a little bit more on the personal side. So I'm going to be asking you some non-drum questions.
Okay.
First set of questions are kind of like what I like to call the job-related questions, something you might answer in an interview. So I'll start from the
Okay.
beginning. What are your strengths?
My strengths are bringing people together. I like to promote teamwork. I like to lead teams. I like to be part of a team, and that's one of my strengths I bring to the table. The other is organization. You know, I like to be organized when I go into any project, and I feel that if you look at my resume, you will see some examples of that.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, even just, to be able to play in a band, to be able to play team sports, you got to have both of those qualities. So awesome. Okay. What are your weaknesses?
My weaknesses is sometimes my patience because yeah, and I'll just relate this to my current job, and and I I've been in the Air Force. Had a whole full career in the Air Force, and now I work in the civilian aspect, still for the military. I guess I'm one of those guys it was always better when I was active duty. When I was doing this job, we did it this way, and it was so much better. So I think I I'm learning to do this, but I think I need to do a better job of listening to new ideas instead of just saying, "Well, this is the tried and true method, and we're just going to continue to do this." So I've tried to make myself kind of okay. Maybe there are other and better ideas out there, and even though I'm old and I'm so experienced with this job, I'm sure there's a better way of doing it. So that's one of the things I could probably improve on.
Cool. I mean, it sounds like you're taking your weakness and you know how you've already identified it, you're taking it and you're turning it into a positive anyway. So that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, it's always a journey, right?
Yep.
Um, I guess what would be your dream job?
I've already had it. I've already had it. I was Chief Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force for a fantastic unit. that I worked with, probably the best unit that I was ever part of. So that was my dream job. And, quite frankly, it was a tough transition, retiring from the military. Then you're like, well, what am I going to do now? I've already had my dream job.
Hmm.
So now what? So I'm still, serving in the civilian aspect, which I still like, but it's nowhere near the same. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I've never had someone say that they've had their dream job. So it's almost like, well, I guess the next question would be, so now that you've had it, obviously it lived up to your expectations and probably more, but yeah, like what do you do afterwards? That's
Yeah, I know. And so, you go through life and this, but your dreams change, right?
mm,
You have different goals as you go forward. So that's not something that, of course, that I wanted early on. But once I did get that job, it was I realized this is the best job I ever had or ever will have. So yeah, going forward, I mean, everyone has a shelf life, as far as active duty time. I mean, the max you can serve in the Air Force is 30 years, and there's a few exceptions, but once you're past that, you do got to figure out, okay, what am I going to do now? So that's one reason, Kelly, why I got back into drumming.
mm,
I got back into playing drums. I'm like, well, I'm getting ready to retire. So how am I going to occupy my time? I put 12 plus hours a day into this job for years. What's going to keep me busy next? And being a civilian in up here in Washington State, my lap also. Me and my wife, we were living in the Bay Area. That's where my last assignment was. But we decided we were going to move back up here. We lived here in the early 2000s. Kids up here, grandkids up here already. So we decided to move back up here. And then I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do for work? And my former boss said, hey, well, there's an entry level job here as a civilian if you want to take it. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. So the other option for me was I had a job lined up working at the Seattle airport, and I was getting ready to start that job. But instead, working for the government again, working for the military was more of my lane that I was used to. So it's like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And I did that job for a few years until promotions came up, and then I ended up being the position I'm at now, which is in a manager position. And yeah, I'm very happy with this too. I will be probably retiring in probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. We'll see at that time. But yeah, that's so. When your question was, what are you doing after you've had your dream job? So it's not easy. You gotta figure it out. Imagine I went from I know what clothes I'm wearing every day. I'm wearing a uniform until I think I got to go shopping because I'm not sure what I'm going to wear to work. You got to dress kind of business casual with Dockers and polo shirts. So I'm like, I really don't have any of that stuff. So yeah, I guess I better go and dress the part and go. So those are the stuff you don't think about until it happens to you.
interesting, very interesting. Yeah, it's so awesome to know somebody that actually has had their dream job and what like my wife is the same. She's working her dream job, and I think it's a little bit different from your story though, because she had a dream job and then she went and got it, as opposed to it sounds like you didn't really know what to expect and it turned into your dream job. Is that kind of how it was?
Yeah, it is. Of course, when you're little, I want to be a baseball player or I
Yeah.
want to be a pro skater or a rock star, and then it turns into I'm not no, the military's not for me. I think I'm going to get out, I think I'm going to go do this or I'm going to go try to get a degree in this. So it's ever changing. Um, but I think it wasn't until, when I was on the path and I had some really good mentors, I had some great supervisors that kind of set me up for success. And they really kind of encourage me to say, why not you? You can make it to that top enlisted rank if you wanted to. And then, I mean, I could not do it without my wife. I mean, that she's the biggest supporter in the world for me, whether it be work, career, drumming, or whatever I decide I want to do. So without her pushing me, quick story. So I'm here in Washington State, and we had our kids here, and they were teenagers at the time. And I had an assignment to Germany, and I could have just retired. I was eligible to retire. So I went home and I showed the assignment sheet to my wife, and she said, "Yeah, let's go. Let's just figure out what the kids want to do, and then. But I'm telling you what, if we go take this assignment, you better get promoted." And so that was my challenge. I was like, "Okay, you got it." And then I ended up getting promoted, and my next base, I got promoted again to my dream job.
Very cool, man. That's a great woman you got there.
Yeah, awesome. She is.
Cool. Well, you talked about mentors. My next question would be, do you have any mentors that you'd like to give a shout out to, and what did they do specifically to help you out?
Yeah, they none of them are going to see this, Kelly, but but early on, I had a good friend of mine. She came to my retirement. Her name is Katrina Griner, and she was an NCO back when I was a young punk airman. I thought I knew everything, and she was the first person to put me in my place and say, "Listen, you don't know jack, okay? And you're going to listen to me." And that really, I was like, "Yeah, okay, yes, ma'am. You got me on that." So, and then she was a person that came to my retirement, 20 plus years later, which I thought was awesome. And so that was one of my earlier ones. And then, you know, I could name a few people. Dean Nation was a good supervisor of mine back in the 80s when I first joined. Everybody smoked in the office. Can you imagine that now? Right?
Yeah.
It was like a smoke filled office, and his ashtray was always full. And he was one of those guys that was, this is old school stuff. It's like, go empty my ashtray, go get me some coffee, but you would do that stuff for him, but he really took care of you. And he would send me to different schools and different training and stuff like that. And so he was an early mentor as well. And then, going forward, I had some others, so too many to name, um, so many to name, on the military front.
Cool, man. That's awesome. I like to hear what makes the person, the story of, you know, any kind of adversity that you have and how you got through it and the people that helped and just create the person that you. I love finding out these little puzzle pieces behind people that kind of, build their character and build them to who they are today. So that's a really cool. I always like to, you know, figure out, you know, why is this person has like such great qualities, and it's always because of the people around them and who they surround themselves with. It's not just, sometimes it's like it has a lot to do with just yourself, but it also has to do with like the people that are around you, the support system
Yeah.
that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, man.
Couldn't agree more.
Here's a kind of fun one, I guess. What job sounds glamorous but probably isn't? I'll give you an example. Um, my wife, for instance,
Okay.
she's a fashion designer, and anytime anyone asks her what she does, and she says, "Oh, I'm a fashion designer," everyone's like, "Oh, wow, it's so cool." But when you go through the day to day, it's not cool at all. It's like actually very laborious. It's very stressful, um, and you're not actually like, unless you're working for, one of those high end designer fashion designers, you're not really designing anything. It's a bunch of pieces. Like you might be designing the thread on a t-shirt, or like if this were like a big, big Old Navy t-shirt, someone
Yeah.
would be doing the font, someone else would be doing the picture, someone else would be doing it. Like it's not one person doing, all the designing. So it's not as glamorous as it sounds. So is there anything that
Yeah.
you think, or maybe in your life, where it seemed like it would be glamorous but it actually wasn't?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind would be, working in Hollywood or working on a TV set, because I know that that could be a grind as well. Um, B for Brianna, you know that channel? If you don't, check her out.
No,
She's
yeah.
a production assistant on a TV show for Netflix. And so she had an interview with Brian Gribben, and I know we both know him. And she kind of explained, you know, all the behind the scenes stuff that goes on. So you really think, wow, you work on a TV show? That must be really awesome. But she's like, yeah, it is in some ways, but you know, it's work, right? Whatever
Yeah.
you do is work. You know, same with, oh wow, you play in a band and you play all these places. Yeah, but you still have to go and set up your stuff and and you have to drive there and sometimes it's far. So yeah, and then some of the jobs in the Air Force too is you know, when people find out you're in the Air Force, especially if they don't haven't been around military community, the first thing they say is, "Are you a pilot?" Well, no, I'm not a pilot. I work on the ground. Oh, that sounds boring. Or, you know, or wow, that must be cool. You get to work around planes, you know, which that part is kind of cool, but there is a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that leads up to getting to that loading the aircraft that is kind of, you know, mundane.
Yeah, yeah. I always when I was a kid, I was fascinated with fighter jets and uh there's somebody has to load all of the shells for the guns and the
Yeah,
missiles
it's
and all
true.
that. They don't just like appear out of nowhere.
Right. There's so much support that goes behind that one pilot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a cool answer. I guess I'll do one more job related type of question. Uh what do you offer that most people don't or can't?
Wow. Wisdom. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, I if I was asked that in a job interview, that I think that would stump me unless I was prepared for it. But I think that I'm gonna give you my best effort. You know, whereas and I'm very determined if there's a project that I want to get done. Um, so what I'm gonna do for you that others may not do is I'm gonna be there for you. You know, in the supporting role, you know, whether you tell me something and I don't agree with it, I'm still going to press on and do my best ability. Whereas others may try to shy away from it or tell you it's a bad idea. I'll try it for you and we'll see how it works and I'll give you my best effort. And I'll do a lot of research for you. But yeah, I don't know
Cool.
what to say on that. I don't know what to say.
No,
That question would stop if I got that in an interview because I've been through some interviews, phone interviews, and face to face and whatnot. I think that would throw me off.
hmm. Well, I mean, that was a good answer. It's
Yeah,
anytime that you could be, I think you could be a team player. Um, you know, when you, I'll rephrase that. When you are a team player, any question that you get asked, I think as a person in HR, they would gather that you're a team player by all the answers that you're giving.
yeah.
So if
Okay,
that's what they were looking for, I think you would definitely get the job.
good, good. Hey, thank you. All right, when do I start? Where's my desk?
Well, I mean, if you want to move out here to Philly and start doing some of my YouTube behind the scenes stuff, you could do
Oh yeah.
that. Because I hate doing that
Hey.
kind of stuff.
Oh well, you do a good job. I know you spent a lot of time on that, which is yeah. So thanks for bringing that up because I don't know how to do that stuff, and so I enlist some help from one of my friends, Matt Taylor at Echo Lake Studios, to do, you know, more of my high quality videos because you know, he's a drummer and he's played in bands. I know him from you know other bands or whatnot, and just he said to me a couple years ago, text or Facebook or whatever, "Hey, Rich, I got a studio up and running. I finished my degree in sound engineering. If you know anybody who wants to record at my studio, let me know." So then it took me some time and I thought about it. I was like, what if I do drum covers in your studio? You know? And so he was like, I've never done video before, but I can definitely hook you up with the audio. So it was a learning process for him. So he took all the time to to look into it and watch YouTube videos on how to do that kind of stuff. He just does an amazing job for me, which is something that, Kelly, I don't have the patience for it. Number one, I don't, and I feel like I'm a caveman with a torch, trying to research how do you make the DAW work with this and that. I just don't know anything about that. I mean, I probably could if I wanted to sit down and take the time to do it, but I'd rather, because I'm so busy with weekend gigs and things like that, I'd rather be practicing for the next song or the next show, and that's about it. You see in my covers that I do at home, I turn the lights on, I hit record on my iPhone, a couple mics in my room, and I just hit go. It's not the good sound quality, of course, but people like it, and I think I've tinkered with it, with the help of people like Earl Bennett and stuff of telling me about, hey, you got to soundproof that room a little bit, and then some things like that, because my earlier videos from my channel, all you could hear do was all cymbals, and it was just terrible. And so I think it's gotten better, and I constantly want to improve. Um, but yeah, mad props to you for everything you do, because your videos and your sound just turns out phenomenal. So I can tell you put a ton of work into that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even watch some of my older stuff because it sounds so bad. And when you play devil's advocate, uh, those old videos they're okay. They're actually okay, but in my mind, they're they're horrible. And I think that's
Yeah,
why I've gotten to the point where I have, because more than anything, like my drumming, I'm not the greatest drummer at all. Yeah, I'm actually probably, middle of the road. But I haven't like nerded out on the drums. Like actually learned how to like Mark from Drum Club. He sits down and he goes through every single fill and whatnot. And I can tell he's getting better and better and better. I don't have the patience to do that. I just want to get back behind the drum set and play. So I do that, but then when I record and I hear it, and it's just it's like a tick. I gotta make it better. I gotta make it better. So this long,
yeah,
I don't know what, maybe 4 or 5 year journey that I've had on this channel has gotten me from sounding okay to actually where I'm happy with the sound. Of course it could always get better and better, but I think right now, for the time and effort that I've put into it, um, I'm really happy with where the sound is, and I think that's why there's been such a huge improvement, is because it bugs the crap out of me. I gotta make it sound good, because the drumming, I could totally have done, you know, the same amount of effort and become a lot better drummer, but it just didn't bother my playing didn't bother me like my sound did. So I think that's why the
yeah.
sound is so good right now. Or I don't want to toot my own horn, but that's why it sounds as good as it does, is because
It,
I've
it
worked so
does
hard
sound
at it.
good, especially you strap the headphones on or some good speakers, man. You got some phenomenal sound. Don't you do recording for other people too? You do
Um,
sound
I
mixing for them?
I have in the past. I haven't done anything really big lately. There's a couple of my old bands that are still recording, and incidentally, they've sent their recordings out to a professional mixer, and it came back and it sounded really bad. So we're actually in talks with me trying to remix all of that stuff, and um, yeah, we'll see where it goes. I haven't really done too much lately, but in the past, I've done some recording and producing and stuff for other people.
Yeah, you definitely have the the know-how and the skills and the equipment to do it.
Well, I
So
mean,
yeah,
like we were talking about before, having mentors and a good support system. Growing up in LA and being in bands and recording all the time. I was with, like, I had really good buddies that, one of my best buddies um, was a producer. He was my guitar player, but he also produced a lot of Epitaph records, so a lot of Oscar records,
oh yeah,
Union 13, Leftover Crack, and a couple of other big time bands. I think he assisted in some Rancid albums. So and he recorded most of the stuff that what my all the bands that I was in. He recorded a lot of that stuff, and I was just like right there. I would see like what he would do, and all the different things that he would use. And this was before, Pro Tools and all that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
almost like when you learn how to drive stick shift on a car, you can drive
Yeah.
anything. When you learn um, the new way, it's almost like it's really hard to learn the old way. Like if you learn an automatic car, it's really hard to learn how to drive stick shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's almost the same with engineering. If you learn all the old stuff, old school stuff, the 2-inch tape, analog stuff, actual uh, compressors and reverb, and their own units. Like everything now is in the computer. You don't really understand what it's doing or whatnot. But when you grow up learning all that stuff in the engineering and in the studios and whatnot, and you see it firsthand, you can take that and adapt it into the you know the digital audio workstations and whatnot. And I think just having those guys around and watching them and learning from them, that's been a huge benefit to why my stuff sounds the way it does.
Yeah. That's good that you, yeah. I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that. That you definitely had somebody that kind of you watched over their shoulder, or they did over the shoulder with you to kind of show you how to make that happen. Whereas a lot of people I know, a lot of especially the drummers in our community, are just kind of trying to figure it out on themselves or get help from others online or watch other YouTube videos. So that's great that you had somebody to kind of show you the ropes on that.
Yeah, and like one thing that sticks out in my head whenever I sit down to mix, the one thing he told me was in order to get a good mix, the most important things are, if a song has vocals or whatever the lead melody is, that needs to be the loudest thing in the mix. What also needs to match that loudness is the backbeat of the snare. So those are the two loudest things in the mix, because what gets people moving is the backbeat, and what gets people, continually listening is that main melody. Everything else kind of settles right underneath, and you kind of got to mix it all together so that it sounds good together, but also separate. So, I don't think you would ever find a YouTube video that would explain match the snare drum volume with the vocalist volume, and then everything else kind of goes below that. I've
Yeah,
always like,
that's interesting.
yeah, I've always kind of stuck to that philosophy. So, and then it just works. Everything else kind of falls into place once you get those two levels. And that's because, you know, it's not from watching YouTube, it's from actually talking to people, different people, and you pick a little bit here, pick a little bit there, and you kind of make your own, I don't know, your own way. You find your own way. And but yeah, it's those types of things that he only said it once and it just stuck in my head. And it was like 30 years ago. So those are the
Wow.
types of things that you pick up here and there when you're playing with different people, and you have different projects with different people, and all these things that you experience throughout your musical career. And you just, it's like you put it all into the bank, and when you need it, you withdraw it and use it later on.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, I don't even know how we got onto this topic, but oh yeah, because your buddy up there, he's got his own studio. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really cool, man. And so how many times have you gone up there and recorded?
So I went there in 2021. I think I probably made, well, I just went there Monday, made 3 videos up there. They'll be coming out later on this month or maybe in July. Um, Probably once every 3 or 4 months, made probably 21 videos up there now in
Awesome.
the past 2 years, 2, 3 years almost.
Cool. All right. Well, oh yeah.
It's good because he's a drummer, is what I was saying before. It's good because and he understands, what you have to go through. He doesn't listen to a lot of the same music that I do. So, if I bring hey, I'm gonna do a punk rock cover, or I'm gonna do this alternative, emo band or something, he's got no clue. But we agree on Smashing Pumpkins and 80s music. That's so those are the two that we definitely agree on, but he just does a great job for me. And I have, yeah, definitely thought about, well, what would it take for me to get something like that done here in my house? And it would just take mostly time, right?
Yeah.
Which is what I don't have a lot of because I'm still working full time and then my wife says I already have enough equipment, so why do you need more? And so I know I need a lot more recording equipment and stuff. I have good mics in here. I've got some Sures and some betas or whatnot. But um, yeah, that's why. And I enjoy that interaction to go into a studio and make a cover, and then just leave the rest of the work to somebody else. Rather than okay, I got to do all this because I imagine it's stressful. And whereas for me, it's just I practice my ass off, and then I go up there, give it my best effort. We do 3 takes each song, and he kind of splice them together and picks the best aspects or best parts and puts all that together for me. And then just for me, it's just the anticipation of okay, I don't mean to push you, but can you have this done in a week? Or
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a premiere in 2 weeks. Can you have it done by then? But he's got a family life going on too, and so the studio he does is not his full-time job either. So, but I appreciate everything he does for me, and it's
Cool.
a I think if I was just to do that all myself, like we talked about studio versus live, I think that, and I have before, I think I might just give up on the project and say, man, this is just too much work. I just don't have the time for it. So, yeah, unless I fully retired, no job, no other responsibilities, then maybe I'll just drill right into that. But at this point, now,
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the future holds. I have one more question about the whole drumming thing that really just
okay.
popped up into my head.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I noticed your older videos, and I haven't really looked out for this yet, but I know in your older videos you use the actual track. You don't take any of the drums away. Like you didn't use what is it, X tracks or Moises or whatever.
Moises app. Yeah.
Are you using that at all?
Yes, I'm using the Moises now.
Okay,
Still 50-50. It depends. I'm still using the original track on some of them.
cool. Any reason why you don't just use it all the time?
Uh, no, no particular reason, but I think sometimes it adds an aspect where I'm playing over top of the drums, or maybe they have some extra percussion in there that I want to leave in there. And with the
Yeah.
Moises app, if you take out the drums, it's going to take away the tambourine or the extra electronic part of the drum or whatever they're playing in the studio. So I guess that's one reason why I would leave it in.
Got it. That's a great reason. Okay, cool. Well, I want to skip on now to the what I call the speed dating questions. I know you're happily married, but these are some
Yes.
questions that you might find at a speed dating event. For this channel, more just to kind of have fun and find out some hobbies that you might have and some
Okay.
things that you might like and things that you might not like. So I guess the first question I want to ask is something that you might not or that you don't like. What are your pet peeves?
What are my pet peeves is people that clearly see trash and don't pick it up, especially in the workplace or at home or in their yard or something like that. I don't know why, but that just does bother me. Um, because it's your workplace or you live in a neighborhood, you've had that, something sitting in your grass that's going to kill the grass for 2 weeks straight. Hey, why don't you go ahead and move that? And I don't know. It's just that kind of stuff irks me. When I drive by and I see a neighbor and it's like, you know, they haven't mowed their grass in 2 weeks. That's going to take down the value of my house. Maybe that's a shallow way of thinking, but when I go into work, I'm thinking, They left this thing out here, whatever it may be, and it was here Monday. Here it is Thursday. It takes 5 seconds to move that thing. What's going on? So those are my pet peeves. Not picking up after yourself.
I totally get it, man. I took my daughter to ice skating lessons yesterday, and most ice rinks they have the bleachers. So my son, who's 1.5, and I were sitting on the bleachers watching my daughter learn how to skate, and he was going up and down the bleachers. He went all the way to the top, and there was a cup with a straw and some. I like to think it was water, but there's a bar over there, so it might not have been just water. But it was just sitting
Oh, yeah.
there, and my son walked up there, and he like took the straw, and he was right about to put it in his mouth, and I had to like get it really quick from him. And it's like, dude, you're going down anyway. It takes no effort to take that cup and just throw it in the trash.
I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bothers me too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so weird because the way people's minds work. I'm so into like the way people's minds work. Like I've been to Japan once, and I took a bus tour in Japan, and the tour guide saw a piece of trash on the side of the road. And he's like, he made a big deal about it. Oh, there's a piece of trash, because over there, everyone, they don't just pick up the trash; they pick it up and they hold it until they get home and put it in
Yeah.
the trash at home.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane to me. That's like one extreme, and then the other
Yeah.
extreme is I used to live in New York City. I used to work in East New York and deep in Brooklyn. And every Memorial Day, every day I'd have to walk through the park to get to work. And every Memorial Day, every Labor Day, 4th of July, there was just trash all over the park. And it's like, what a complete, difference.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And yeah, I know. Being in Europe, um, same kind of thing. Depending on what country you go to, ones might be cleaner than others. Like Germany, for example, very clean country. They always pick up after themselves. And what's funny to me, like if you're in northern Italy, it's very clean, clean air, pristine. But if you go to southern Italy, where the majority of the population is, it's just tires all over the place, trash on the all over the ground, burned out cars everywhere. It's just ridiculous, graffiti everywhere. So it's a vast difference
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I've seen as well, and even here in Washington State. So stepdaughter hadn't been here in 7 years, so and she moved to the East Coast now, but she comes back here and she's like, "Oh my God, I don't remember seeing so much trash on the roads as recently." And I was like, I don't know, blame COVID. I don't know, but yeah, because a lot of places in this state, they consider themselves environmentalists, climate pledge arena and all that stuff. So, but where the urban areas are, it's a lot trashy. Yep.
Yeah, it always I've never actually like studied it, but it always like boggles my mind how some people can be so clean and some people can be so like, I don't want to say dirty, but they just don't care. It's just weird to me
Yeah,
how
yeah.
people
There
can
you
be
go.
so
And then
different.
and so I get that in society as a whole, but when you're at work and you're in a workplace and you want to keep it nice for everyone, and you need to have respect for where you work too, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
keep
Well,
it clean.
cool. That's a good
Pick up trash, keep it clean.
yeah, there you go. Take it from Rich. Pick up your trash. Do you have a favorite season or time of year?
Favorite season. Okay, so where I live now, Pacific Northwest, we have a rainy season and a drought season. That's what we have here. But summer is beautiful. A lot of people say, yeah, it rains all the time up here, and it does rain a lot. But when it is sunny and nobody's complaining about the weather, it's beautiful up here in Washington State. You can see Mount Rainier. You can see the Olympic Mountains at a distance. So yeah, I would say summertime and then even into fall are a good time of year to be up here. And so I don't have a favorite season, but of all the places I've lived, it would probably be different each season, right? But living up here in the Pacific Northwest, yeah, definitely summer and fall.
Cool. All right. Coffee or tea?
Uh, Coffee,
Uh, Pepsi or Coke?
Pepsi.
Oh, Pepsi. You're the first person to say
I
Pepsi.
know. Well, I heard a couple of your interviews of people saying Coke, but that's why. But there's an old Saturday Night Live skit, probably way before your time too, but is Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and they have Greek accents, and they're running a restaurant, and people come into the restaurant, and that's their tagline. That's what the big joke is. They say, "No Pepsi, Coke, no Coke, Pepsi," with the Greek accent. I can't do it, but they say, "No Coke, Pepsi, only Pepsi here." But no, growing up, I know my parents they bought a lot of Pepsi products. I don't know why that was, but that's what we grew up on.
Yeah, that's a good reason. I mean, that's another thing that like I kind of nerd out on is the things you grow up on. They define your personality, and you just don't like. Sometimes you don't even know any better. Like
Yeah,
you may
but
think. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I don't drink either now. I don't hardly drink any sodas at all. I stick to water and
That's
uh,
good.
well,
That's
yeah,
great.
I try to get as much water as I can. Of course, caffeinated beverages like I'll have energy drinks or coffee, but yeah, I don't drink sodas hardly at all anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could. That's the one thing I don't think I could ever quit is being able to drink soda. So
Really,
good for
yeah,
you, man. I
yeah.
envy you on that one. Um, do you have a favorite animal or a favorite animated character?
Favorite animated character? Um, I don't know. Growing up, we used to watch a lot of Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes cartoons, so I guess that
Cool.
would be it.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny is a good one. Classic. Have you traveled anywhere fun lately?
Lately, um, in the past year, or
Whatever. I mean, any
oh,
kind of
okay,
vacation that just kind of sticks out of in your mind.
yeah. So I went to Texas in March. It was for work, um, and so I used to live in Texas actually when I first joined the Air Force a long time ago. And going back there, it was kind of weird. It was like I feel like this place is still part of me. You know, because it's got that mindset of hey, you're Texas, and you have all the stereotypes like country music and cowboy hats and barbecues, and it is that too, right? But it's such a cool place to visit. I don't know because I don't know if I could live there again. Um, but the area I went to, so I used to live in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and where the school was that I attended, it was in right on the Oklahoma and Texas border. They call that area Texoma in Wichita Falls, Texas. Very small town. I think they rely on the Air Force base for most of their economy. And then I went one weekend. We drove into Oklahoma to see that, and I went and saw an old friend of mine that I've known for 40 years. I drove out to see him as well, and he still lives in Texas. So that was an interesting vacation where I traveled to
Cool. Yeah.
North Texas.
So being in the military, I'm pretty sure, as a lot of my other friends who've been in the military as well, I'm pretty sure you've lived in and visited many places. Um,
Yes.
any stick out to you, or any that are, you know, like okay, so when I first went to Paris, it took me a
Yeah.
long time to get there because I thought it was overrated. I thought people like, oh, Paris, 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 Paris. When I got there and when I stayed there, it was better than any of that overhyped drama that I thought, oh, I'm just gonna go to Paris because my friends are going to Paris and whatnot. I'm probably not gonna like it. I ended up loving it. So is there any place that you've gone to where just exceeded your expectations? And then is there any place that you've gone to where maybe it didn't live up to any expectations that you had?
Uh, both, both, of course. I'll just really quick list all the places that I have lived. I lived in Germany twice. I lived in Korea twice. I've done both coasts. I lived in the Bay Area, of course, up here Pacific Northwest. I lived in Texas, New Jersey, and from the age of 0 to 19, I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. So all of those places, I would say, are great in their own right. Um, but honestly, a place that just blew me away when I first came here in 1998 just to visit was seeing Mount Rainier here in Washington. And back then, you know, it was a Seattle grunge thing going on, and I was into that music at the time. So I was just kind of, wow, this is awesome. But uh, anywhere in Europe, honestly, that I've been, Germany is a fantastic country, and I was always thankful that I was stationed right there in Germany because you can go, which is a matter of a couple hours, to all these different countries. So, um, Paris a few times, London. Um, so I can't pinpoint any one particular place. I would just say that I've had great experiences in every place that I've either lived or visited.
You ever get to go on the Autobahn?
Of course. Yeah, so I did, and when we first got there, I took my family there. I was stationed there, with my ex-wife in the 90s, but later on I took, my family here, and we went there as a family. So um, get there and I get a BMW off of what they call the lemon lot, right? This is like used cars that people that are transitioning out, they just want to sell it for cheap. So bought a BMW. I'm like, I'm gonna drive a BMW on the Autobahn. It's gonna be awesome. Man, we went to Heidelberg Castle, which I had been there before, but my wife hadn't seen it. So, and we had a great visit. On the way back, the car dies on the Autobahn. and
Oh,
so,
wow.
and so, and we had just bought it, but we bought it for cheap. So ended up trading it in, but uh, getting rid of it. And then I got a back then, are you familiar with the Dodge Magnum? Do you remember what car that was? It kind of looked like an old station wagon, but it was a revved up engine. So taking that car on the Autobahn, going 130 miles an hour, that's an awesome experience.
Very
You know,
cool. Yeah, I you mentioned Heidelberg. I'm a graphic designer, so Heidelberg is a really cool place, a place that I would want to visit because that's where the first printing press were made.
I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, there's a huge Heidelberg. Heidelberg is actually a company as well as a city. And I think
Okay.
they started in Heidelberg, but they're like one of the biggest companies for making large printing presses. So it's always been a place I've always wanted to go to and check out. So just getting the recommendation from you, that's
Yeah, you should, and then visit the castle. Take your wife and kids to see the castle. It's awesome.
yeah, cool. All right, well, great. Just a couple of more questions. I know you got to skip out pretty soon, but let's see. Okay, so what is your favorite movie?
Man, I don't have a favorite movie. Fast Times at Ridgemont High from
Nice.
1982. It's just
Love
got
that
so
one.
many classic lines in it,
Yeah.
and me and my brother still to this day, we still quote, and we know what we're talking about. We'll say, no shirt, no shoes, and then he'll finish with no dice, right?
Man, there's some quotes in that movie I don't think you can say even today.
No, I know. No, you can't. That's
That's a
true.
that's a great one. I was actually talking to my one of my other drummer buddies a couple of days ago, and he had never seen it, and I was like, "What? You've never seen it?" Uh, Phoebe Cates. That's all you gotta just Google
Yeah, yeah.
Phoebe Cates,
Of course,
Fast
yeah.
Times at Ridgemont High.
Yep.
You'll want to watch it.
I'm a big fan of the comedy movies from back then. Also, not is Office Space. So many, how many one-liners
Yeah,
from there can you
yeah.
remember? Just classics. But if TV shows, I really like watching the crime dramas like FBI and Blacklist and shows like that.
You ever get into the English crime or the UK crime?
Um, which shows we talking about?
So there's
Killing Eve. There's a show, that Killing Eve show. I don't know if you saw that on BBC.
Killing Eve's great. Yeah, yeah, I love
Yeah, that
that
was
show.
all. I love that show. Yeah.
There's ones that stick out are The Killing, Broadchurch. Um, there's one called what's the one on the island? Shetland. Those are all amazing
No, I'm gonna
shows.
check them out now. There's a remake of a British show called Accused.
Oh, never heard
So
of
it's
it.
on it's on FX or Fox now, but that's a really good show. And it starts out with they're in the courtroom and getting accused, or for their trial, and then it backtracks to what actually happened, and it's
Uh,
based on a British show on
that's
BBC.
that's a cool format. I'll check that
Yeah,
one
it
out.
is cool. It is cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, what's your favorite food?
Ooh, that's tough. Okay, Asian food, Mexican food. Not to be too ethnic about it, but yeah, those are the type of foods I like, and Italian food, of course.
Cool. All right. Anything?
Yeah.
What kind of Asian food do you like?
Well, my wife is Filipino, so I like chicken adobo, and she makes some awesome lumpia and pancit, which is noodles. Um, and there's another thing she makes called chicken tinola, which is when you're sick, it's better than any chicken soup that you can buy from a can. So those are some of my favorites. But I also like, like Thai beef salad and pad Thai, Thai. We have a lot of teriyaki places around here, a lot of Korean barbecue places. So in case you didn't know this, Tacoma, Washington is the sister city of Seoul, Korea. So
Oh,
we
cool.
have a huge Korean population here. And then being stationed over there twice, I definitely get it. So I do partake in quite a bit of Korean barbecue myself.
Awesome. Are you a kimchi fan?
I I do, but I'm allergic to shellfish, and a lot of them they make it with shrimp paste. So I have to be careful on the label. And so, a quick story on that. So I'm in Korea, and they have all these restaurants and bars, not far from the gate. And so we're out there, and they bring you this big thing of kimchi on the table, and you're eating it with chopsticks. And I asked the ajima, which is the waitress. I said, what is this? This is good." She said, "Oh, that's fish." I said, "What?" And I know when I'm allergic to it, I'm gonna swell up, and she's like, "Yeah, it's fish." I'm like, "No, cannot be, cannot be." So like, and so we're all in a group of us, and they're like, "Dude, let's go, let's go." So we're out there, and we're at the different bars and clubs and having soju and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, have you seen the movie Hitch with Will Smith where he just swells
Oh
up really
no.
big? They're like, "Dude, you're so red right now. Are you okay?" And I'm like, I went to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, "Oh my God. Yeah, guys, I got to go back home, and I'll go back and take some Benadryl, and I'll have to call it a night." So, yeah. So, anyway, I do like kimchi, but I have to be careful with what's in it. With any, Asian dish, I have to be careful with the ingredients. Yep.
Yeah, something popped up into my head being in the military, being stationed in Korea. It's probably obvious, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Have you ever been to the DMZ?
Um, Me personally, no, but they offer tours all the time for people to go up there. And I think after I had rotated out, they were I think one of the commanders was making it mandatory. They were like, "You need to go up there and see this, just so you can see what we're here for," kind of thing. So, no,
Yeah.
personally, I never went there. No.
Yeah, actually, I actually visited there. I think it was probably 2018, something like that. And yeah, it told like when you're what was it? Who told you that they have
It
to
was one of the base commander at the time.
yeah, so you for your base commander to say that it should be mandatory. I agree with them. Like going up there is it's surreal. It's insane how eerie it feels. It's just an eerie feeling seeing all the fake buildings and the train station that's abandoned there and how it just echoes. They're constantly playing propaganda on the
Yeah.
loudspeakers. and
Wow.
it's just this eerie feeling. Yeah, I totally would like be on board making that kind of like a mandatory thing for military to go up there and see just exactly like because you kind of take for granted like the privilege that you have down here in the States, right? And
Yeah.
to go up there and just see a completely different world, it just like it does something to you. Like it literally like I was flying home and I was like, wow, man, what if I was born in North Korea? Like just a deep thought that
It's two different worlds, and not yeah, I wish I would have seen it, firsthand. But of course we get told about it. We get briefings all the time about, what's going on or whatever when you're especially when you're over there.
yeah, I'd
Yeah.
imagine.
I
Oh,
was
cool.
over there during 9/11, actually.
Oh, wow.
During nine and so talk about feeling helpless, right? So, you're in Korea, you're 15, 12 hours ahead of East Coast time, and it's nighttime. And so we had people like banging on doors. Hey, you know what's going? Yeah, of course we know what's going on. Everybody's got a TV here or whatever. So yeah, and we couldn't really do anything, but we just went into base lockdown, and we weren't allowed to go off base or do anything else for a while. So we really didn't get involved. Being where we were stationed. So we're like, hey, you guys still got a mission to do here in the Pacific. So whatever's going on there, let the people that are stationed over there take care of it. But yeah, I was in Korea during that time. So I think probably at least 3, 4 months we weren't allowed to do anything but just stay on the base.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember watching, we all of us probably were watching the news for the next months ahead. And I remember specifically remember seeing on the news how much the Korean population supported the United States. They were just out with the American flags and whatnot. And it was just kind of a cool thing to see because back
Yeah.
then, I was still like a punk kid and didn't know anything about, pride of where you came from and, uh, patriotism and anything like that. But I just remember, these people halfway across the world are supporting America. And here I am in America. I don't really care about it. It just kind of switched my perspective. And from that point on, I was like, you know what, these people would probably kill to live in America. And here I am, you know, born here, don't know any better. And it really just changed my mindset. And from that point forward, I kind of felt
Yeah.
like, you feel a little bit more not proud, but if anything, lucky or blessed to be born here because we have so many things that we just take for granted.
Yeah, this is true. We do, and it takes sometimes you to go out and see other parts of the world to see that. And and I'll put a quick plug in for my friend Gene because he does a podcast called Auslander Sessions, and Auslander in German means foreigner. But anyway, so he talks about all that kind of stuff. It's like we do feel like if somebody's like, because you probably know people like this too. They grew up in their same hometown, stayed there as an adult, and never ventured out, never even got a passport. A lot of Europeans think that Americans are weird because a lot of us don't even have passports, right? So but he talks about a lot of that stuff and he interviews people that are, either foreign or, live in other countries or whatever. So, um, yeah, I think you're right. And you yourself have gone out and seen other countries and how other people live and maybe view the world. And it gives you a different perspective for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. You're gonna have to send me a link to his podcast. I'll
I
definitely
will.
check it out.
I'll send it to you.
Cool. Maybe I'll put it down in the description too, so other people can check it out. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll try to do like maybe one or two more, and then we'll wrap it up. Um, are you a person that likes to? I think I know the answer to this, but do you like to stick to routines, or do you just go with the flow?
Mm. For the most part, I like to stick to a routine. Yeah. Uh, it's hard for me to go with the flow sometimes. It is. Um, and I had some ex bandmates that, when we're playing like the shows with four other bands, and I'm like, why are they taking so long to get their drums off the stage? Come on, So I get impatient with that kind of stuff. So I do like to stick to a routine for the most part, but I've learned mostly from my wife, that hey, chill out, just go with the flow, just enjoy, So yeah,
Yeah, that's it's so silly because I don't know if it's a race thing or whatnot, but a lot of my friends that are Asian, I feel like, are like your wife. They just take a step back, relax, chill out,
yeah,
let things go. A lot of, and then a lot of my white friends are more like they get stressed out a lot about certain things. So it's funny to me that I hate to talk about race, but it's a thing that exists, and there's differences that I think we can all talk about, and that's
yeah,
just one of them. Is like a lot of times, like even with my wife is Irish, and me being Japanese, a lot of times we'll go out or we'll be doing something, and she'll get all stressed, and I'll be like, "Whoa, just take a deep breath, relax," and we kind of like balance each other out. So it's just funny how um I like a routine as well, but for the most part, I kind of more of a person that goes with the flow because I know things
and,
change all the time.
and I know I know that bothers her that I'm like that because I'm like, I just want to know what the plan is, what's going on. And she's like, will you just relax?
Yeah, that's funny, man. Okay. Okay. I do want you to get back into and this question will get us back into that. Do you play any sports? Uh I think you answer it in the current section, in the current space, but also
Okay.
like what you used to play back in school and all that.
Okay. I'm a golfer. I don't get out as much as I can, but I that's the current sport that I play, is golf. What I play, of course, I played. Told you I played in early high school, middle school, baseball and basketball, um, and then in the Air Force, played with softball teams. A lot of softball in my earlier years, and in basketball. And so at every base you have like a team and then a league type of thing. So yeah, baseball and basketball have been my primary sports,
What
growing
position?
up. And even on in basketball, it depended. Sometimes they had me at forward and sometimes guard. uh, and sometimes I was the guy just to go in there, and my coach would say, hey, go foul number 10 and piss him off, and that would be my job, kind of like the agitator. um, so, and then in baseball, growing up, I played infield, second base, and then playing softball in my later years, I moved to first base.
Cool. Were you a better fielder or hitter?
I think I was a better fielder, and even when we played softball, because softball, it's one of those beer drinking leagues, everybody from 1 through 10, the lineup can hit it over the fence, right? So I was all that guy trying to shock them. I would like try to hit it to right field or hit a single up the middle, or you know, I was just like a base hitter. Uh,
Got it.
yeah, but I was always good at fielding. I remember pissing off my neighbors because I had a rubberized baseball when I was a kid. I just throw it up against a brick building, and we lived in an apartment complex when I was first growing up, and so they were like, "Will you stop that?" Because and then that's how I learned how to field, was just kind of throwing that ball off the side of a brick wall.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I see your Reds hat. I think you guys
Yeah,
beat.
so I was gonna wear like, hey, this is the confused sports fan. So I do like love my Cincinnati teams, Reds, Bengals. Um, but and then in college basketball, I followed the Cincinnati Bearcats. But I also, living here in Seattle, and then we have a split household because my wife, she likes all the Seattle teams. I know you're a hockey fan. The Kraken did very well this year,
Yeah.
so we became fans of watching Kraken. Whereas before we were, not really into hockey, didn't have it up here in Seattle, never grew up with it in Ohio. But yeah, so we like the Kraken. My wife likes the Seahawks. And we go to Mariners games every chance we get up here, Seattle Mariners.
Very cool. They had a good season last season, right?
They did, but I think they traded too many people in the off season, and now they're fighting with Oakland for last place.
Ooh, yeah.
We'll see how they pan out. And I know you love your Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, you guys beat us out yesterday, right? I didn't watch
Yeah, the
it.
Reds did. Yeah, I was surprised about that because the Reds, they don't really suck that bad this year. Yeah,
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot more good teams this season.
yeah, and some of the surprising teams,
Yeah.
Angels, Angels. I don't know how you feel about them. They're in the other county, but
Yeah, I don't actually mind them, especially with Trout and Shohei. I
how
just
they here's a question though. Knowing where they are, Kelly, in geography, how can they call themselves Los Angeles Angels?
that's yeah, that's kind of like the joke of the town is
It was
it's
better when they were Anaheim Angels or California Angels, right?
I I think the owner, he's just kind of like one like a nutty guy. And I think he did it just it's almost like a troll move.
Yeah, a troll move.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I think he just kind of was like he wanted to capitalize on the whole Los Angeles thing, but he also I think knows how ridiculous it is. So I think he's
Yeah,
just kind of being a troll. It- for
that's
me, I
funny.
like it's like at first it took me a long time to realize that. I was like angry at that whole thing. But then
Yeah,
once I started to like realize he's probably just like messing with people, and it's like, oh, I can actually respect that. And so now, like, well, I mean, in 2002 when they won it, I was
yeah,
actually cheering for them, partly because I didn't want the Giants to win, but
yeah,
also just because that team, I love a team that's kind of a bunch of scrappy guys that aren't supposed to win at all, and they just end up finding a way to win. Um, Kind of like a lot of the Giants teams that actually won in the 2000, I think, what was it, 10, 12,
yeah. They had
14 or something like that.
every even year they would win, right?
Yeah. But they were all scrappy guys, and I just love it. It reminds me of hockey. A lot of the times it's not the best team that wins the cup, it's the most scrappiest team and the team that plays together the best. And those are the kind of teams that I like. And that 2002 Angels team like fit that perfectly. So I was cheering for them.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I know you gotta head out. You got an appointment to get to, but I just want to say thank you so much for not only doing this, but for just being that awesome, supportive voice for everyone in this drum community. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Anytime I've ever had a question, um, f- from YouTube to drumming to whatever, and I go to you, you always are like right on top of it, and you give your answer to the best of your ability. And you've helped me out a lot on a lot of different things. So personally, I'd like to thank you just for your help and your support, but also what you do for everybody in this community when you do your shout outs and all of that stuff. I think a lot of people, I think it, I don't know if you got it from somebody else, but in my eyes, the way I'm looking at all the things that are going on, it really started with you, and then everybody else kind of just started doing that as well. So it's a contagious thing that you've got going where you just shout out different drummers. I've also wanted to start doing that too. I'm just not very good at going out and meeting other drummers and whatnot. So I just
Yeah.
leave it to you guys. But the stuff that you've done on this whole community for your channel, not just for your channel, but just for the whole community, um, I it's invaluable. Like it's your YouTube gold in my opinion, just because of
Oh, come on. That's
no, I'm totally serious. Just the way
it's
that you
easy for
bring
me to
everybody
turn red, Kelly. It's easy for me to turn red. I mean, come on now.
up.
But thank you.
Yeah, I just for me, keep doing what you're doing. Never stop. Make it to that retirement point in 4 to 5 years, and then I want you and me to get together, and we'll start working on your sound in 4 or 5
Hey,
years.
that'd be awesome. That sounds like an awesome plan. Awesome plan.
Cool, man.
One thing I want to say about the overall, community and supporting each other. You and I know several out there that they put a drum cover out there, then they're like, well, why isn't anybody watching it? Well, you got to have the interaction. And I know for me, that has been one thing that I've enjoyed more so than playing drums or putting videos on YouTube, is that interaction, where I would not have met you. I would not have interacted with anybody from other countries, with this stuff. So just one bit of advice is just remember, drummers out there, if you're making drum covers, it takes a lot less time to go and comment or watch somebody else's video or give it a thumbs up than it does to make your own cover. So I think if everyone just did that, I think this would grow even more, right? So just keep that in mind. It doesn't take that much to support others. It really doesn't. It's a lot easier than making your own stuff.
That's for sure. I can attest to that. Cool, man. Well, again, thank you so much. I hope that we can do this again in the future. And is there any one last thing that you want to leave us with? If you want to plug anything, or you just want to overall thoughts or whatever before we
No, that was pretty much it. Is, I always, when I have my talking videos or drummers to check out, I always say peace out and be good to each other.
Awesome.
Because that's what I think we need to do, whether you're a drummer or just a fan or a singer, and then also I think that the community wants to know, how often do you do karaoke outside your studio?
Back in LA, we would go to Koreatown all the time.
Oh yeah.
They're big on their karaoke. So we would do karaoke, once in a while, but ever since I've moved out of LA, I don't think I've ever done, maybe once in New York, but since we've been in Philly, I haven't done any karaoke.
So not since LA. Okay.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Say that I do karaoke at Filipino parties all the time. Because every time we have a party, it's always karaoke, and they are always forcing me to sing something. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. But yeah, I always end up doing it.
Okay,
but
so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a collab. I'm gonna play drums, and you're gonna sing.
Whoa, okay. All right, then we'll have to discuss the songs offline then. We'll see.
All right, guys. So you heard it here first. There's gonna be a collab with KMKanDrum and Rich Raw Dog drums, and I'm gonna be doing the drums and he's gonna be doing the singing. So look out for that.
Wow. On the spot.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool, man. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, and dude,
thank you so much for having me, Kelly. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, man. So anyone out there who hasn't subscribed, please subscribe to Rich's channel. You won't be disappointed. You're gonna get your money's worth and a whole lot more. So check out Rich. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon in the next one. Take care. Thanks. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I put out a new video. Also, check out my website, www.kmkandrum.com, KMKANDrum.com. And if you really want, head on over to my Patreon, link in the description. I've got a ton of benefits for anyone who becomes a patron, a lot of cool extra content that you can't find here on YouTube. And also, check out these cool videos that I've done in the past, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.